Welcome to episode 101 of the Maple Leafs Hot Stove Podcast. I'm Nick Ashbourne, joined as always by Anthony Petrielli. It has been, in some ways, an eventful week since we last talked. In other ways, on-ice product has been fairly low event, but not necessarily in a good way. Things have happened off the ice, though, of interest. I want to start with a general level of concern with where this team is at right now, because last week it felt like the overriding message we were putting out there was, the team had a certain plan about how they wanted to stack the lineup, how they wanted to play. There's some guys who are going to inevitably play better than what we've seen thus far. And even though there's no reason to be happy about the first few games the Leafs played, it wasn't also time to panic. And I'm not sure if we're saying it's time to panic now, but it hasn't been encouraging since that time. So I'm going to turn over to you how you feel your concern level has evolved over the last week.
I mean, not a ton just yet. I would put the concern level at I would consider this low, like a 6. Like it's not crazy high, but like there are things that are genuinely concerning and problematic. Like there's very real problems. I'm not ready to like completely throw out like the baby with the bathwater type thing. Just because they've been fairly mediocre in October for many years now, and if you kind of go through it, it's not necessarily great. Last year they were 6-4-1. That's very much attainable for this group to kind of get there the rest of this month. The year before they were 5-3-1. The year before that, 4-4-2, like a dead even 500. The year before that, 4-4-1, a dead even 500. This is not for all the talk about, Trey did a good job changing the DNA. It's a general pretty sloppy start for them. So in that sense, it's not that I'm not concerned. I'm just willing to wait to see it play out a little bit further. Just because we've seen this movie too many times. There's been too many people with like the classic like egg yolk in their face because they lost their minds after like 2.5 weeks into the season because these guys kind of screwed off for it. And then by the end of November, it's like, oh, never mind, they're good. So if you ask me, do you have 100% confidence that'll happen? No, I don't. But I'm not, just because it's happened so many times, I'm definitely not ready to sit here as of recording on October 22nd, not even the full month in, and just say, yeah, like these guys are actually terrible and we've seen enough to know.
Yeah, I think that that's a silly thing to do, right? Like what are we, under 10% of the way through the season? So
They have 75 games left.
every team is going to have a stretch in the season that is unimpressive, even the very best teams. And it might just be that the Leaf stretch is the first one that we see, and it's under the microscope because we haven't seen the other 75 games. I will say that one thing that causes a certain level of concern watching the team is that there's a bit of a sameness to it. Like the whole point of what was going to happen this season was that things were going to be different, right? Like it was going to be a more balanced roster. It was going to be a group that compensated for the loss of a certain player that we're not talking about by having a credible third line. And it was going to be a group that was going to be buoyed by Matthews coming back and being that, all world top of the league player that we've seen in the past, but we did not see last year. And so I would say that none of the concerns that I had entering the season have been resolved in any way, with the possible exception of Morgan Riley's improved play. And like, not that that's been perfect, but like, at least it's been more, like the thrust of it has been better. It's been more aggressive. It's looked more like Morgan Riley. Sometimes that's been a bad thing, but like generally speaking, I think that's a good thing. You should have guys play within their identity. But like the things that you thought might be good about this team haven't really shown up yet. And it's not to say that they won't, but they definitely could have made people more comfortable about where this team is going by having a start that included some of the newness coming through in a positive way. And the new players have not contributed a ton. The team doesn't feel new in any meaningful way just yet. And that is a bit of a bummer, even if it's not necessarily something that means that none of that stuff's going to come together and that the season is going to be lost. I'm sure there are people who are despairing in a way that we're not going to do in this show. But it would be comforting, I guess, if in the early going you saw something and thought, okay, that's a positive change from Maple Leafs teams we've seen in the past.
I think my biggest level of concern so far is that this is a really easy stretch of their schedule. It's, in fact, the easiest stretch of their schedule. And obviously, they're just leaving points on the table like crazy. So, in the context of an 82 game season, like that's a big problem. It's not like you're looking at a grueling road heavy start to the season where you're going, yeah, they look like crap. But, you know, in the horizon, on the horizon here, they're going to have this stretch of play where they can like smooth it out, you know, bank points, like lay waste to the easy part of the schedule. Like this is the easy part of the schedule. Like they do genuinely need to rack up some points here by the time this massive home run to start their season concludes. So like it actually does need to start basically this weekend against Buffalo. You're 7 games in, you've kind of putzed it around. You're 500, which isn't the end of the world, but it's also not great considering your quality of competition. So, like that part genuinely concerns me. The other part that genuinely concerns me, and we'll see essentially how this, develops as the season goes on. Is they just look like a poorly coached hockey team to me. Like they couldn't control play last year, and they had a good lineup last year. I still think they have a good lineup this year, and they can't do it again so far this year. They're getting caved in the second period. They've tied for the highest goals against given up in the second period. They're among the lowest in goals for in the second period. You know, love him or hate him, one thing that Mike Babcock said when he was here that always kind of stuck with me is good teams control the second period. And that's because you have the long change. You have to manage the puck exceptionally better than you normally would. So good teams that have the puck on their stick are able to manage their line changes. They're able to manage their matchups. They're not negatively impacted by the long change that's in place. And ultimately, they win out the period. Now, last year, they were great in the second period, even though they weren't great territorially with the play. Like they were good in terms of just being a veteran defensive unit that managed the game responsibly, and they didn't give up any junk, and they were really good at capitalizing on teams with a quick strike counterattack. So far this year, they're just getting completely caved in the second period. Like usually that's a sign of a bad hockey team. You're kind of seeing Craig Berube, like he's noted it a number of times now in post-game press. There's like, what went wrong today, Craig? The second period was bad again, right? I mean, they gave up 4 against Jersey. And we talked about this last week, but a large part of this to me is just, again, how he started this season. Like they had a clear lineup plan in mind. And Scott Laughton gets hurt, and they changed 3 out of 4 lines completely on their head. And the lines are all a mess. Like they're all a mess. Like all of them now, except for Willie and JT, are a complete mess. And I'm not even saying with Michelli there that it's good. The book is still very much out on that. But Willie and JT are doing more than enough.
Michelli's lack of production indicates, though. It's
Yeah,
like it looks okay out there.
Yeah, like regardless of who the left winger is, like I don't care. Like it's fine. Like they're doing what they do. Like they are what they are. They're doing what they do. Willie's producing, JT's starting to produce. Like they make it work. The rest of the lines are a mess. And it's like you look back at last game, it's like going into the season, I think it was pretty clear that Max Domi was going to start on the top line. Then he gets hurt to start preseason or start training camp, doesn't start preseason. And he's off the top line because what? He got hurt. And because like Michelli like tried in preseason, which like most of these guys didn't care, and like got a few assists. And we sat here when that happened. I was like, the worst thing that's happening right now is people's expectations are rising for what Michelli is. So Domi gets booted off that line. Then they're like, actually, not only are you not a winger and you're not playing with Austin Matthews, but now you're playing center. That's a pretty drastic change. And then it takes until game seven. So actually, before we get to game seven of the regular season, not the playoffs for all the PTSD havers, myself included. So he starts on third line center. It's like, okay. And then Michelli gets a look there and you go, all right, well, the new guy that had 18 points last year is immediately ushered to the top line. And I'm on the third line playing with like Nick Robertson again, who we just played the game of will he even make the team? But now that's my role. Okay. And then he stays on that line. Michelli doesn't do well. It's like, well, actually, you have to continue playing center on this like quasi third, fourth line. Now we're going to give this like 20-year-old that didn't even make the opening lineup a crack at it. You can continue to watch it on the third line. And then by game seven, they're like, actually, let's put you back on the top line, which was the original plan. Like, that's just so discombobulated in the overarching sequencing of how that all went down. And Domi was terrible in game in against Jersey. Like the goal where he had a 3-on-2 at the end of a shift where he went up and down the ice like 3 times before that, and he tries some like brutal sauce pass is just terrible hockey. Like I'm not defending Max Domi. I'm just saying like they've jerked him around for a couple weeks now, and then you put him in an unenviable spot where it's like, hey, you know what? Like you know how we were going to start you on the top line, and then we didn't. Well, they're playing like shit, so now you need to go up there and what fix the top line, and also your Max Domi. Like it's just like it's not a good. Like it just doesn't make any sense of how he's managed. It's like you're looking at Nick Wass, like he's barely playing. It's like in Vegas, he was good enough to play 15 minutes and win a cup. But in this 500 middling Toronto team, he's playing like 12, 13 minutes. They never move him up the lineup. And in fact, got like benched against Detroit at one point. And then like like you keep going through basically all the lineup decisions and you started with one thing, you completely abandoned it because you lost your mind because your fourth line center got hurt. And then everything has just been very disjointed to me. And we haven't even got to their tactical play, how they can't control a puck like at all, how they don't break out cleanly. Like, the solution is work harder and go north basically at all times. Like, I haven't even gotten into that stuff yet. I'm just saying, like, you've screwed around the lineup for 2.5 weeks and they're playing like it.
Yeah, I mean, in the last 2 games, they used, I think, 7 lines, at least a minute 45 against the Kraken. I think it was 6 against the Devils. I think Nylander had nearly 7 minutes with Matthews in that Kraken game at 5-on-5, so not even including overtime. Like, there's so little patience. Like, Berube has made comments following game 7, like, I'm tired of mixing this stuff up. It's like, you don't have to. Like, you can try and wait and see if something works. Like, have a little bit of patience. And you're right. Like, Domi was shit. Domi was shit in the
Terrible.
7th game of the season. His first crack with the first
Awful.
line. And there are legitimate worries about here. He is not a franchise savior. But like he's
No.
also had enough success with Matthews that he's entitled to one game that's not great and to keep looking at it. And it just
To
seems
me,
like
he was entitled to a 10-game run. Like to
yeah,
start the year, they
something.
just said like you're playing games 1 through 10 on that line. If you're terrible after that and that line sucks, then you're off it. I don't think he was entitled to, you know what? We know you were going to play there, but we're actually going to put you down to 3C. You can watch the 18-point guy and the 20-year-old who's never played in the league play there first. And then if they're both terrible, then we'll put you there and move
you
things
have
around
to
again.
you have to allow guys to fail. Like guys are going to fail occasionally. I mean, especially when you're dealing with whether it's guys who are flawed players like Domi and Michelli or someone who's inexperienced like Cowan. And I'm not saying that Cowan deserves some massive run with the first line because there's a weird thing that happened. And he had his moments where he looked okay. I don't want to take too much away from him. But like you do have to allow players to fail. You do have to have a certain level of patience. And it's kind of funny because the exact opposite thing is happening on defense, where it's like, okay, we've locked in, we've got our guys we believe in. And I'm not saying that those are necessarily the wrong pairings, but it feels like he's able to have patience with on the defensive side. And then with the forwards, it's like if you don't produce right away, if you don't play the way he wants you to play right away, it's over for you. And we're throwing you guys in the blender again. And I just there it is a fine line. It's a difficult aspect of coaching of knowing how patient to be with guys and when something just isn't working and you're going to pull the plug. but it does feel to me that like on the spectrum of sticking with dumb shit that's not working to just absolutely blending everything all the time, like it does feel like Berube is more in the blending mode, and that to me that conveys a lack of confidence and kind of a little bit
Yeah,
of
like, do you believe in
desperation.
your plan? Did you make a
Yeah.
plan this summer and did you actually believe in it? Because if you did believe in what you put together and the plan, and it seemed like Brad Tree Living clearly articulated a number of things of which they envisioned in the offseason, and then we didn't see any of them come to fruition, basically, to start. It was like, actually, you know what? Scott Lawton got hurt. How can we possibly rectify this and fix that wrong? We got to change 3 out of 4. That's how.
Yeah, it is difficult to fathom, and it's sometimes it's hard to square Berube's public persona with the way he coaches, because he comes off as this person who is calm and confident and not going to get too up and down. And he's done a good job. And we gave him credit last year for sort of managing the difficult media space associated with the Maple Leafs and not letting things get away from him, not letting narratives get out of hand, kind of putting a stop to it. And we'll talk about the Stolarz thing and Berube's response to that. But it was very Berube. And so you get the impression from him that, like, oh, this is a guy who is comfortable in his skin and someone who does not let moments get to him too much, and that is, just consistent with his approach.
He,
And then that's not the reality on the ice.
no, and I think that just, yeah, like, you said it kind of just, it sends a wrong message to the team. Like Matthews hasn't been good. Yeah, just straight up, he hasn't been good.
No.
Knies hasn't been good. A number of guys, like I said, why isn't Nick Waugh playing? Like, he hasn't been good. But also, like, they didn't come out and like empower these guys and put them all in the situations that we envision, right? Like, there was talk early on. It was like, well, Matthews is hopefully going to get some easier matchups with Nick Waugh as a checking center, comparing to Adam Lowry in the offseason. Brad Tree Living, not me, mentioned Adam Lowry in the same breath as Nick. It's like we haven't seen any of that play out. If I was Matthews, I'd be like, where are my easier matchups? Not that he's feasting on them anyway, but you
No.
kind of give guys the out, right? Where you're like, well, you told me this how this was going to play out. This was my expectation. Now you're jerking around me with my right winger. I'm not in the, my matchup is very different than what was discussed. And, like, it's to your point, it's like the lack of confidence, like the, players pick up on that. They wear it. Like, there's a lot that goes on. And, even again, like, this isn't like an end of the world thing, but it's like I'm watching the third period against Jersey, and it's like Calle Yarncroc takes a shift on the right wing with Matthews and Knies. And then it's like Nick Robertson takes a shift. It's like Nick Robertson didn't even play 10 minutes last night, but you're down a couple goals in the third period. Let's get him on a line with this. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you're just making things up now. Like, this is just like you've kind of like lost it a little bit. And look, I'm not going to say that they've like quit on him or anything like that, because I remember kind of going through this with Sheldon Keefe at one point to start a year. And I was like, man, they look like they quit on him. And then they just went on an absolute heater in November. So I'm definitely not putting that out there. But what I will say is it did catch my attention that after the Domi giveaway and the 4 goals in the second period, Berube was fuming. Like, Mike Johnson made a note, like, he's like, I know Berube, like, I've seen him around. Like, he was talking about it. He's like, I listen to this guy on the bench all the time, always here. And I've like basically never heard him like lose his mind like he did on that, which was fair. I would have lost it too if I was coaching. Like, that was summer hockey with your pals, what Max did. And they showed him right when the period ended and he stormed off the bench. There is no planet, none, where he didn't go into that room and lose his absolute shit on the team. Like, can we as a preface, can we agree to that general? Like, he lost it. There's no way that he didn't lose it in that room.
Yeah, I think that that's a fair assumption.
Fair. And then Jersey comes out and gets the first 6 shots on net of that period. And with 5 minutes left in the period, where the Leafs were down multiple goals, they had 3 shots on net. They would have had to have shot 100% with 5 minutes left to have taken the lead It's not like they came out flying. It's not like that you like saw the third period. Like I was very curious going into the third. When Berube stormed off the bench, I was sitting there going, like this guy, like he might break a table. Like he might smash something against the wall the way that he's storming off the bench. Like you don't usually like he's pretty controlled. And so to generally think that that's what happened and then to watch them come out and like they were terrible in the third period. Like they came out, they had absolutely nothing going. It wasn't like you could sit there and say they came out flying, they made a push, Jake Allen stood on his head. Like Jake Allen made 1-6 save. It was with like 50 seconds left on Morgan Riley or whatever it was in the final minute, give or take. That was an unbelievable save. Great for Jake Allen. They did not test him meaningfully until that play. I mean, it's just a terrible response. So something's up. Like I said, I'm not saying they're quitting on him or anything. I'm just saying there is bad aura and vibes and whatever's happening. It's like lines are a mess. Coach is losing his mind. Players aren't responding. Veterans doing dumb things. Like there just a lot there where I'm looking and like our overarching point here was like level of concern. And I was sitting here saying like I expect these guys to kind of like figure it out a little bit just because they've been in the league for too long, like pretty much the entire team. They've generally been a good team. I think there will be like some level finally of like pride, and they usually end up getting it going in November. But I'm also just looking and going, man, like it's hard to have faith in what Craig Berube's doing. Like Domi shouldn't have played again. I would have just benched him the rest of the game, right? It's like we're gonna talk about the Stolarz comments and everything that went down with that. I was at that game. It's like the second it happened, I was like, Carlo shouldn't play again. Like that. Where are we seeing these kind of messages? Like, are you pissed off at Austin Matthews because he's not playing well? Like he seemed to kind of voice that after the game, right? It was like, frankly, I'm getting tired of it. Like they're not controlling the puck. Matthews played 21-51 last night. Bench him. You're down multiple goals. Just be like, you know what? I'm tired of watching it. Take a seat. You can watch Nick Robertson skate hard and do absolutely nothing for 20 minutes. But like where is any sort of accountability from him coming in? Who have we looked at and been like, you know what? Like Berube just finally said like enough. Like I can't, like there's some standards on this team. You're not doing it. And it has to be a top guy or a guy that plays minute. Like there's no benching Nick Robertson to send a message. That means nothing to anybody. Like Matthews and Nylander and Knies and Jay, they won't even turn their head at that. Like, where are you looking? Like you're upset Matthews isn't playing well? Sit down. Watch.
Yeah, I think that this kind of this brings the road to the Stolarz situation a couple ways because it's about like you said, it's about response, and we can talk about the response in general in the Devils game to Stolarz's comments, but also like I took Stolarz's comments to some degree to be a little bit of a criticism of coaching. Talking about how they bring the puck back to the point, and that's where they take all their shots from. Like Berube likes shots from the point. Like he talked about the point. I'm not saying that Berube sits people down. He's like, I want every puck going back to the point and then just going on net. But it's a type of offense that like he will praise and has praised in the past. So it is like when again, like Stolarz was not trying to send a message like Craig Berube is a shit coach, but like that part of it was like a little bit funny to me, and that's not the biggest part of it. Obviously, the biggest part of it is his complaint about how he doesn't want 225-pound guys lying on him, that the Leafs are leaving points on the table. All those things are really valid. And it was really interesting to see. Like you don't see this very often for a goaltender to be the one who comes out and tries to hold everyone's feet to the fire, in part because a goaltender can't lead by example. Like he is a bit of a spectator to some of these problems to say, hey, all you guys, you're doing it wrong. I'm just going to sit back here in my net and do my thing. Like, I'm not saying that makes it invalid, but it does make it unusual. And it's not like Stolarz is in the middle of an incredible season. He definitely has cachet in the room because, what he did last year. He was good with Florida the previous year. He's a respected veteran. He has a ring. Not that he, was the one who necessarily earned it, but you know what I mean. But like, what was your initial response to seeing Stolarz be the one to come out and criticize? And like you mentioned, it was the impetus was the Brendan Carlo incident where his lack of reaction to his goalie getting run was an epic level of passivity.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like on the Berube note there of the comments in the Stolarz side, like I think it was more pointed towards his teammates in the sense that, look, I only speak for myself because I played, like, I was a defenseman my whole life. I guess still am to some degree. And so anyone who played defense will know, if the other team is dumping it in on you all night and running you, and then you have to watch your forwards not finish a single hit, it drives you insane. And I imagine the equivalent, if you're a forward and the other team is hunting you at the blue line and they're not giving you a free pass in any capacity, and then you're watching your defenseman give up the line and let opponents walk in, I'm sure that pisses you off, right? Or if they're not holding the line and coming down the wall when you're in the offensive zone, and you're watching a free pass the other, I'm sure those things piss you off. And if you're Stolarz, it's, how am I constantly getting run? And we don't go to the net at all. And we're supposed to play the exact same way. And I'm sure if you're a player, it's probably more, I'm not looking at the coach to hold them
I
accountable to
I
it.
think you're right. I just think the
Yeah.
content of it does kind of apply to some of the things
Like,
that Berube
yeah,
said.
no, it for sure does. I mean, again, where is Berube's accountability on it? It's non-existent so far. But like the line about playing catch in the yard was the funniest thing to me, because
So good.
I was like, it's a joke, man. He's sitting there watching the Leafs D either get the puck and not shoot because nobody's in front, or just like floating absolute muffins to the net were no screen. And then he's sitting there going, I am getting hit every single time. And these guys like aren't doing anything to protect me in the process. And then I got to watch that down the ice. Like, I'm sure he's just beside himself. And so that just in response to that, like, my first thought of the whole thing is, I shrugged and I was like, they're soft. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it just, that word gets thrown around, and I think it gets thrown around like a little bit too liberally. But I mean, we talked about this whole thing last week. Like, nothing changed like from week to week. It was like the same crap. It was like, against Florida, Stolarz gets knocked out of the series. We sat here at the time and I was like, I think maybe the Sam Reinhart thing came into play, the shot that, knocked his mask off, in part because in my mind, I went, there's no possible way, if they sat there and they were like, Sam Bennett knocked our goalie out with concussion, that they don't say anything to the media. Nobody responds to Bennett. Nobody goes out of their way to address him. All of those things happened. Nobody said a word, right? Like, if when Scott Lawton hit and smoked Evan Rodriguez from behind, we've said this before, Paul Maurice for the next 48 hours whined about it at every press conference he could. Every single one, he absolutely whined about it. He wanted some sort of calls. And yet it behooves the Toronto Maple Leafs to sit there and say, hey, they knocked our goalie out, our starting goalie. And Paul Maurice was going to bat for Evan Rodriguez, by comparison, who came back in the series, by the way. So you can only imagine what he would have been like if Sergei Bobrovsky got knocked out. And Stolarz comes from that program. And then, so that happens. And then preseason, we talked about it. Dauphin runs them. Nobody does anything. In Detroit, he had the puck covered at one point. They slashed it out of his glove. He had to talk about it with the ref. And I was, sitting there watching that going like, I can't believe Stolarz is sitting here having to talk to the ref about pucks getting slashed out of his glove because they're knifing him in front while he has it covered. And no one did a thing. That should have been a brawl. That straight up should have been a brawl. The Dauphin thing should have been a brawl. That was preseason. That should have been absolutely not. All bets off. And then within it, you're watching these independent situations happening with Easton Cowan, which, again, we already talked about. 20-year-old kid, first couple games in the league, guys taking liberties with him. Austin Matthews literally said guys have kind of been taking liberties with him Like he used the word liberties, not just me. Nobody does anything. So you look at that and just like the culmination of it. And again, so the first word just went like shrugged, and I was like, they're soft. Like there's nothing else. They can talk about things changing. They can talk about being the heaviest team. They can talk about all these things, but there's no there's no byproduct of that that's coming out in anything yet. So for Stolarz, I'm sure as we talk about Florida and what Maurice would have been like if Bobrovsky got knocked out of a series because Max Domi came through the crease and decided to give him a little, you know, shot to the head. And I don't mean little to like belittle it, but I don't, like he didn't like wind up and like, you know, it wasn't like UFC. But Stolarz coming from that program, I'm sure sitting there going like, we'll never win like this. Like I just, it's a spoiler alert for everybody listening. Like the East goes through Florida. Until proven otherwise, the East goes through Florida. And the Leafs specifically being in the Atlantic Division, it has to go through Florida. You will never beat Florida like this. You will never, ever, ever, like they look at that and like they laugh, like Kachuk laughs. That is a joke to them. They're like, we will break them. Like it has nothing to even do with hockey at that point. Like they're just like, we will mentally and physically break them. They won't stand up for themselves. They won't stand up for each other. They won't come together to beat us as a team because when we go after individuals, Easton Cowan, Anthony Stolarz, whoever else, nobody will do anything.
Yeah, it's again, like you said, in a sense, nothing has changed in the last week since we last spoke. And so it is easy to respond to this situation and say, this is a pattern of behavior, and this is another step along the road the Leafs have been walking for years, realistically for years. The fact that Stolarz did this does feel distinct to me. Again, we talk about goaltenders just don't often do this because players like to lead by example. A player likes to come out and say, like, we have not been good enough, we have not been tough enough, and like, watch me tomorrow and I'm gonna light somebody up. And like that doesn't happen with the Leafs necessarily, but like
Yeah.
that's a theory. Like, watch me, I'm gonna be the guy who's tough. I'm gonna show us the way to do this. And Stolarz can't do that just by virtue of his position. We have seen fiery goaltenders in the past. Like we have seen goaltenders who slash people. We've seen goaltenders who throw bombs, sometimes at other goaltenders, sometimes at players. But we rarely see goaltenders who feel like they are backed into a corner where they have to be their own defender. That is something we don't see. Like normally you see a situation where goaltenders maybe they have an aggressive disposition and they're having some fun out there and they just, we know that goalies are a little bit crazy. Like they're a little bit unhinged and sometimes they do unhinged shit. But what
It,
Anthony Stolarz was doing was not unhinged goalie shit. It was like self-defense, aggressive
so,
self-defense, both
So goalies
verbally
are
and
usually
physically.
weird. Goalies are usually weird, right? Like they just generally are. I mean, it's a bit
For
of a weird
sure.
position to play. And it was kind of bothersome to me in the sense that I was like, man, like your goalie should probably be the weirdest guy on the team. And instead I'm listening to Stolarz and I'm going, he's the most normal guy on the team. Like the just the gap on the
Well,
like
your
he was
goalie,
saying what everybody else knew, except for the other players, because none of them ever acknowledge it.
your goalie should be the weirdest guy in a team in a different way than that. Like your goalie should not be the most unhinged guy on the team. He should be weird, probably in an introverted type of way, to be honest. But I don't know. There's a lot of other guys who don't fit that mold. But that's what stands out to me is that like in a lot of these cases, a lot of these situations, a goalie, when things get nasty, a goalie will skate away. That's honestly, that's what a goalie's arguably supposed to do. Is like there's some kind of fracas in the crease, goalie skates away and lets the guys handle it. And like, not only was Stolarz participating because he felt like he had to do that, but like he was the primary participant. And especially considering his injury history. And again, it's not like he's going to get in some fight where he squares up with a heavyweight on the other team and it's going to affect his concussions that he's had in the past. Like that's not a realistic scenario, but a guy that has had such an extensive injury history should really not be, should not be run in the first place, but shouldn't be involved in extracurriculars as well as that. And I think it's a real indictment on the team that that he feels the need to, yeah, engage both physically and verbally. And that does feel like another, like it is consistent with the pattern, but it is also a another level of it as well.
Yeah, and to that point, I thought it was interesting because I kind of listened to the rounds of mainstream media analysts, many of which are former players, talk about it. And basically every former player that I heard was kind of like Stolarz shouldn't have said that. And they're coming at it from the angle as players and they're like, I don't need my goalie to come out and talk about that. Like he's not that guy. And also I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying like what I heard. Um, and also like a lot of them bringing up, you know, look, you mentioned Stolarz has some cash, and I think he should. He also only played 34 games last year. He didn't play through the playoffs. He doesn't like. He's not Andre Vasilevsky speaking out. He's not Henrik Lundqvist. Like he's not those guys. Like he's a good goalie. I think he's been one of their best players. I think, he's signed long term now. He's clearly the number one. I think he's been pretty good this year so far by and large, given the team's been pretty bad in front of him. All those things. But I found it was interesting that basically every player, former player in the league, was like, no, like he shouldn't have come out and said that publicly. But then at the same time, they were all like, but the Leafs shouldn't have done anything. The way that like the players should have reacted on the ice, but also Stolarz shouldn't have said anything. And it's just a bit of a weird sort of like chasm between the two things where you're going, everyone like knows what he said is right. I don't know how anyone would argue against that. I haven't seen anyone argue against that. Like no one's sitting there going like, why did Stolarz talk about like how soft the team is? And like he's wrong. Everyone's like, yes, what he said is like factually true. They don't drive the net hard. They don't defend. They're playing like crap. Like I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially the key messages there. What's the point of what Stolarz? All those things are true. No one's fighting it. And so it's interesting to see that kind of play out. And then it's interesting to see them kind of come out the way that they did against Jersey, which wasn't good.
No.
And just to kind of see, it's like, I get why Stolarz said it. There was a large part of me that was like fired up, basically, to be like, finally, it's about time someone said it. But it is tough when it comes from your goalie. He lets in a slap shot off the rush that was short side. Like he wasn't bad that game per se, but he wasn't lights out either.
He gave up 2 gettable goals at least.
And then you kind of like look at it and it's like clearly the team didn't respond. It's like, who threw a hit last night? Like who got dirty? Like the first goal, they went to the net hard. I'll give them that. But it wasn't like an emotional response. And then I think all of this kind of ties back to something we talked about in the summer when Matthews Knies signed, which is I still think they're looking for like an emotional leader. Like they don't have that. There's no straw that stirs this drink. And that's just true. It's like Nylander's 3rd in the league in points right now. Like he's producing. You can say whatever you want.
We called out his points last time we talked. His points since have been valid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not all empty net junk anymore.
Look, I get why he's frustrating. I get why Stolarz was upset about the overtime goal. But if I'm Nylander, I'm going, I'm 3rd in the league in points. Like, what's Matthews doing? What's Knies doing? What's like, even if you go through, it's like, what's Chris Tanev doing? Like, he hasn't had a good start to the year. Like
that pairing, Tanev McCabe has not been the shutdown pairing it was last season at all.
I used to watch Tanev last year and throughout his career, and he would make all these subtle little plays throughout a shift, right? Where I'd sit there and like out loud say like, oh, good pass. Like, oh, good job. Like evading that forecheck. And now I'm watching him. I'm like, this guy's just taking shifts so far. Look, again, 7 games into the season, I'd expect Tanev to round into form and accept all the caveats to that. But I'm just saying, like, Nylander's been called out by Berube. He's been called out by Stolarz. And if I'm him, I'm looking around like, is anyone else watching anybody play hockey on this team other than me? And Nylander is as frustrating. Like, he's not going to change. Like, this is what Nylander is.
he makes the Nylander
Like
mistakes and he makes the Nylander good things
that,
happen, and the good things outweigh the bad things by a
the,
big margin, and that's been the case for years.
yeah, the play on that goal wasn't even like extremely egregious. I mean, Riley shouldn't have stepped up on a flat-footed guy in the wall in the neutral zone. It's like Nylander got beat, but he tried to catch him. Like and like he was beat in the neutral zone. Like he wasn't beat at the end of it. Like he was beat in part because Riley stepped up. And like once he realized what was happening, he tried. He couldn't make up the ground. And I'm not defending Nylander on that play. I'm really just saying like I don't even know if that goal would qualify in the top 10 worst things Nylander has done this season. For that to be the
Fair.
thing to, like that's not really the thing to hang your hat on to be like what are we doing here? That wouldn't have registered for me. I would have been annoyed. But
Versions of the Leafs who are playing good hockey have Nylander making things like that happen. Like that's
yeah, I
not the
mean,
thing that has changed that has made the Leafs suddenly so
no.
mediocre that Nylander is going to miss the occasional play on the defensive end on the back check, not react fast enough to something.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I guess just tying back to the Stolarz comments, like, I get what he's saying about, you know, I don't like being run. The guys aren't, he's basically roundabout saying like we're not responding. Like we need to pick it up in general. Like none of this is good. All that I agree with. I think the Nylander stuff was a little bit harsh. I think the comment about like guys have been here before or been here for a while, like that's harsh and pointed and unnecessary, especially so early into the season. Like I get it. I know fans like to hear it. I think there's a bit of a fine, like you're a little bit early to be ringing that. And now like they lose the next game, they play like shit. And that might have been their worst game of the year. Like it's close. I mean, you're thinking what, that or Detroit? It's basically those two.
Yeah, I mean and
And
this was also their first game against a team that, whatever you think of the Devils,
yeah, they'll make the
has a
playoffs.
lot
Like
of skill, will be in the
yeah,
playoffs, presumably.
yeah. So like now you've like upped the temperature of everything. Like part of it to me too, among the whole thing of everything happening is I'm like, man, I wish they could just go on the road and get out of here for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. It's like the energy's not good. Like go hang out on a road trip. Like even if you were in Florida and Tampa, like go to Florida and Tampa, go by the ocean. I don't like go golfing. Like go have some team dinners and hang out and like all like there it's just like so disconnected. Like I think Berube's exasperated that with the way he screwed around with the lineup. Like I don't think he's helped bridge it. I think all of it is just very not meshing and it all just looks very disjointed. And so the glass half full would be that they do this all the time, which they generally have, and that they'll smooth it out by November, maybe like get on a road trip, like get away from all of this and quiet things down and like go out and start playing hockey and all that. The glass, half empty take is there are some like really concerning signs. Like they're not controlling play well. They're not detailed at all, like from the coaching staff down through to every single player that's playing. And, they're bleeding points in a really soft part of their schedule. So, like all of that is entirely problematic. I just I look and I still say concern level is like a 6 out of 10. Like it's real and it's there, but it's not like full on ready to lose it. I just,
I'd
you know,
probably be willing to throw a 0.5 on the end of that six. I'm
as-
not going to seven just yet, but I could do a 0.5. One thing that you mentioned there, I do want to touch on, and you will get out of here fairly soon, is the idea that Stolarz's message to the team was like not finely crafted. Like in some senses, it was poorly executed, right? Like you mentioned, the thing on Nylander was maybe a bit too harsh. Pulling the lever on the guys that have been here for a long time, like that's more of a playoff type of message. But like that's because he's not experienced doing this. You know what I mean? Like
no. Yeah, he
this
hasn't
is
been a number
not what
one.
this is not what he's been doing. Hey, he's barely been a starting goaltender, let alone like the emotional core of a hockey team. in the NHL throughout his career. And like you mentioned, like who's the guy who stirs the drink? Like if we go through these guys, and sometimes they're public personas, you don't really know, and there are things we don't understand that go on behind the scenes. But you think about, you know, Nylander, he's kind of in his own world. You think about Riley and Tavares as like the very white bread professionals, like Austin Matthews is the laid back guy. And then like once you get past that group, laid back maybe not the right word for it, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Once you get past that group, like you're getting a little bit too far down the roster to find your heart and soul a little bit, because
There
then
is
it's
no
like,
heart and soul, and that's what they look like on a night-to-night basis right now.
yeah,
Who's
so
the guy?
then you have guys who have not done it. The Stolarz is stepping in, and yeah, that's a tough look. It's a tough look just 7 games into the season. As you said, we'll see what happens against Buffalo. But you and I, if we speak in a week and they've played the Sabres twice and they played the Flames, who are not a good team this season. I mean, haven't been great in general. And then, got the Blue Jackets. I don't know when the next podcast is going to be,
If
but like
if
all the teams we're going to see between now and then are teams that a good Maple Leaf squad should not have much trouble with.
if
And this
if they
concern
finish those
meters,
3 games and they're not over 500, the concern level goes up to a 7 for me, maybe a 7.5.
yeah, like it's the dial's going to keep turning here because it is such a soft schedule, and you really need to take advantage of
The
that. And not only do they need to do, like, maybe if they dominate those games and they just have awful bounces and awful luck, you can say, listen, they figured it out. They carry this formula forward. It's going to
Yeah,
work. But like they haven't shown any evidence of that. There's nothing like
no,
underlying where you're like, oh, actually, the results are bad. Like the one game against Detroit, tough the way that one went at the end.
yeah.
They can feel okay about the effort, but like there's nothing underlying this failure. It's just failure on top of underlying failure.
I didn't see anyone even remotely reasonable that looked at that one Detroit game and was like truly like this is garbage. Like you looked at it and you're like, all right, well, they dominated them. It's just whatever. Like if you play like that, you're a 105-point hockey team easy if you play like that all year. I think people get it. I think the concern is that they look terrible. Up and beyond, like the results are really not that bad. Like they're not digging
There's a
themselves a
version of
hole per
having this
se.
record that would not be concerning. Like you
Yeah,
could have this record and have played well. That's just not what happened, and
I,
against poor competition.
I think all of the concern level ultimately I mean it ties back to how concerned are you about what we're seeing from Austin Matthews. Like that would Like it's not all on one guy. Like Knies needs to be significantly better. I don't find Knies is making an impact. Like, I'm not watching him period to period and saying this guy stands out. Like by either making plays, by running through guys, by being a problem. Like I know that he's hard to battle against. Like he's a strong man, but I'm not watching him going like defenders are fear this guy. He's driving goalies crazy. He's getting in there. Like I'm not watching any of those things. I'm watching often and just saying like, where is he? Like I'm reminding myself to look for Matthew Knies, and that's a problem. So I'm not. It's not just on Austin Matthews, but end of the day, like Matthews has to be a guy, and he's not like Jack Hughes walked into his house, had a hat trick, and took his lunch money. And
I
okay,
mean,
it's early, it's whatever, whatever. I'm just saying, Jack Hughes came in and cleaned him out. It was not competitive. Jack Hughes, when he hopped the bench, was terrifying to watch. And you noticed him on a shift by shift basis. And Matthews now, I find, like he gets the puck, I don't even feel it in my heartbeat. You're just like okay, another guy with the puck on his stick. Like there's nothing exciting about it. He's not doing a single thing out there where you're like he's dangerous, he's a problem. And like we know he is a problem. Like if you're gonna give him clean looks, he's probably gonna score. All the like things. It's not to say like he's not gonna produce it all. He clearly is. But you're not watching that guy go out there and be a killer on a
I
shift to
mean,
shift basis.
we're 7 games in. He's got 4 goals. 2 of those are empty netters.
He
And the
hasn't beat a
other,
goalie yet. He
the
hasn't.
exactly, the other 2 are ones that the play is made by the other player, and he's just kind of finishing on basically empty nets from in tight. And like getting to those spots is good, and whatever. Guys find a way to miss that shit sometimes. So fair enough. But like he's taken 29 shots on goal, and he hasn't beaten a goalie properly. And that was the thing last year. Is like he was finding ways to get goals because he was hurt. And it's not like the scoring tap totally turned off, but that like I'm just in the mid range of the offensive zone and I've got a quarter of a second of time. The puck is on my stick and I'm just firing at top corner. That wasn't there last season. And we just haven't seen evidence of that this year. Now there's been some posts and shit, but also like that happened last year too. Like, so at the end of the day, like the puck needs to go in the net.
And even just, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. But in building to that, like he's not taking inspiring shifts. Like you're not watching him go out there and saying like, man, this guy's a dog right now. Like you can tell, like Matthews is hungry, like he wants this to change. Like he's leading by example. Like he's setting the tone of the work ethic that's going to be required for the team to get out of this and like start picking it up and like let's go here. Like that, like he's capable of that. And he has been at times that exact thing. But you're just like it's like the goal, like you're not beating goalies and you're not really coming out and setting any sort of tone. And there's no real straw that stirs the drink, which I think should be Knies. But I'm watching Knies going like, I don't think you're making anyone think like you haven't driven through a single guy. Like no one has left a single game against the Leafs and been like, Matthew Knies is gonna make it hard for me to sleep tonight with what he physically did to me. Like it's just a lot. Like there's not, and then like yeah, Dakota Joshua needs to play better. Yeah, like go down the line. It's like Dakota Joshua can't be that guy. Like Dakota Joshua has to be the guy that follows that guy. Like that's the way it works. Like it's got to start from the top guys who are setting the example for the other guys. And the only guy that's really doing much of anything on a dangerous shift by shift basis is William Nylander, as per usual. The thing with Nylander is he then mixes in the stuff where you're like he's just very casual and nonchalant about any number of things defensively, puck play, whatever. And you can shrug at it with him because you're like he's so damn good. And then also just to like wrap this up and not belabor it further, but I do find that like some of this is just, and this traces all the way back to when Berube was hired, said like he's never coached a player as good as Matthews, and Matthews looks significantly worse under Berube. It's like he wants him to play defensive. He's super conservative. Like he's treating him like he's Ryan O'Reilly, and he's not. Like he's so much better than like prime Ryan O'Reilly. Like I'm sorry, he is. Like Ryan O'Reilly will never, ever, 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 ever touch 69 goals in a professional hockey season. Just will not happen unless he goes to some tier level that's quite low in Europe. It's not happening. That's not Ryan O'Reilly. Like Matthews is a thoroughbred star, like who has respect across the entire league, immediately captain of Team America, all of these things. Like you listen to those guys talk about them, they're like in awe of him. Like in the Four Nations, I thought like he was terrifying to watch when he was playing against Canada. Like I know that what happened on the overtime goal and that he missed the chance, but like I thought he was by far their most dangerous and best player. Like this is a stud. And then I look at Nylander and he's still producing, and part of me is like, you know why? Because Nylander just doesn't care. Like he doesn't care what Berube has. He's like, go ahead, like talk about playing North, and Drew's like, I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna do what I want to do. And that's what he does. Like that's Willie. Like Berube basically admits it when you hear him talk. But he's like, yeah, like that guy just kind of does his own thing. And so it's like the one guy who's like, second in the league in goals last year, third in the league in points so far. It's like it's just he's the guy who's like, yeah, I don't actually care what this guy says. I'm just gonna
William
do my
Nylander
thing.
just exists outside the context of his environment. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't exist within the bubble of
yeah,
pressure associated with Toronto. It doesn't matter who his coach is. Doesn't really matter who his line mates are sometimes, although obviously the partnership with Tavares has been good. It's just like
yeah.
he is living his own beautiful hockey life, and other people are just kind of tangentially involved.
he knows what he is and who he is. You think he cares if Berube's gonna yell at him or whatever? And then I watch Matthews and I'm like, what happened to this guy? Like he's playing such a conservative style. Like he's not getting after it. Like this isn't his game at all. Like he's barely making plays. He's doing like nothing offensively to be a threat. Like you're not ever excited anymore when the puck's on his stick. Like there used to be a little bit of like a buzz in the arena when he touched the puck. Like you'd sit there and you'd be like, I need to watch right now because like anything could happen. Like the way that it happens when like McKinnon touches the puck and McDavid, and like even on like a lesser end, it's like if you watch like Montreal now, it's like Lane Hudson will have the puck, and half the time it could be a giveaway to the other team. But like the crowd's still excited because they think something's gonna happen. You watch Matthews now, and you're like, what's he gonna do? Dump it in so Knies doesn't forecheck hard, and then they skate back down the ice into their own end for 40 seconds? Like, like there's just not like it's not to say that Matthews' struggles are entirely on Berube because I don't think that's true either. I'm just saying like that, like how he's playing and the messages that he's probably getting and the way that they're like moving. It's like I don't think he's being implored to be this like offensive juggernaut that he should be. Like this is a guy
Yeah,
that has like 106, 108 point seasons in the league.
as much as we talk about with him, people in the past have talked about whether a Selkie trophy is a legitimate thing that could happen for him, how good his stick work is, how reliable he is. Obviously, he's got the size, he has the tools to be that two-way presence. Like, he will never be even close to as good defensively as he is offensively. Like, he's one of the very best goal scorers who's ever lived. And like he's a good defensive center and he's a responsible guy and he can do a good job on a defensive shift against tough competition and he can help you close out a game. And there's a lot of stuff he can do in that
Yeah.
respect. But sometimes we forget that like he's like a god tier scorer in theory. And like we don't know again with the health and like whether this season he is all the way back.
No,
Like I
man.
don't
The
know. There's
health, he doesn't get
also
the health thing. There's no
I don't
health
want to
thing.
do it again, but like I'm just saying it's not even close. Like so like the idea that he should be really focused on being the ultimate two-way star. Like he's not Patrice Bergeron. Like he's not. He is a guy who has multiple elements to his game, but like the element is put the puck in the net. Like that, and that element stands above all the other. And that's a good thing because that's the most important thing in the game. That's what the game's based on. And so like at a certain point, you just need to see that prioritized and make a sacrifice, make a reckless decision, take a risk,
Do you
do
think
something that
Connor
results in you being on the highlight reel for the wrong reason because you weren't responsible. Like, and again, maybe Berube has an element of that, and maybe we talked about that with Morgan Riley last year. Maybe that's an issue with Matthews too. But you definitely don't, like you said, you don't feel like, okay, here comes that offensive force. Here comes that guy who's going to change this game. The Leafs are down by 2 goals and they're not out of it because they're going to throw this guy over the boards for 3 of the next 5 minutes, and he might just put 2 in.
Do you think Connor McDavid cares about playing defense right now? You think Nathan McKinnon cares? We know Nylander doesn't care. Like, like you can't like completely not do it. I'm not vouching for that. Obviously, there's a fine line. He's a center as well, so it's further, it matters more. But I'm sorry, like you're not. They're not looking at McKinnon right now saying, like, you got to make sure you track back hard and like make sure you're above the puck all the time and make sure you're safe at the blue line. They're like go kill guys. Like just go rip their hearts out. Like we will get you the puck and like you
Go
will
take like
absolutely
7 consecutive shots in an overtime game. Be the
yeah.
only person with the puck on your stick.
Yeah. Like I'd be looking at like their power play's not producing so far. I actually haven't minded their power play. We didn't really get into it, but whatever. But like, I'm not looking at it going like, wow, they're just teeing up Matthews. I'd look at Matthews and say like, if you don't take like 5 1-timers a night, like something's wrong. Like you have a lefty feeding a lefty now with Riley on the point. I'd just be like, you're gonna tee them up and we're gonna see. And like, if you don't score, like you suck at shooting. Like challenge them. Like just like, you
I
know,
mean, that's like a long time issue, right? Like we've never seen the fully
no.
realized version of Matthews on the power play just firing one-timers. And
And then
maybe
you
now's
just
the time.
yeah, and you just kind of look and I'm like, I don't know if they're viewing it as like, man, we need to just like get this guy going again offensively. I think that I think it's just like a very like boring conservative style, and it doesn't really play into his. I don't think it plays into a lot of their players' hands, but I definitely don't think it plays into Matthews' hands. And then they acquired these guys that they touted as to like be like those checkers, and then like they just are terrified to even attempt to use them in that role. And then, you know, things kind of like roll on from there. So yeah, I mean, I still think that they're good enough to kind of and veteran enough to like work their way through it and like yada yada yada. But I'm concerned about the coaching staff. I'm very concerned about that. I'm concerned about the way that they're playing. I mean, those things are tied hand in hand. I trust the players reasonably enough to get their way through it. But, you know, the 3 games that you mentioned before we probably record the next one, it's like they should really be over 500 after those 3 games.
Yeah. And we will see if that's where they are next time we talk to you. We really appreciate everybody who listens in. We like it even more when you leave ratings, reviews, things of that nature that help the algorithms we don't understand. And we'll be back with you again next week.